control the vertigo.
Welcome to Anthologic, the TV anthology podcast. I am your host, Mark. Anthologic is a podcast dedicated to exploring the good, the bad, and the odd of horror, science fiction, and the best of mystery suspense anthology shows and series on TV. Join me as we slip through the cracks of reality to approach the extremes of experience, where we can peruse the stories and art of a sinister fairground of strange and wonderful rides. And now we go on to the show that is the focus of this particular episode. Welcome to this episode of Anthologic with your host, Mark. Today we are talking about an anthology series from 1984. It's a British anthology series and it's called Hammer House of Mystery and Suspense. A kind of similar to the Hammer House of Horror series, though the episodes were a little longer, and but in feel they were quite similar. The episodes of this series ran more like 70 minutes without commercials rather than 52, I think, for the original Hammer House of Horror TV series. This was a co-production between Hammer and 20th Century Fox television, and so when this actually did air in America, it was known as the Fox Mystery Theatre, so they give it different titles and such like. It aired in the UK. First airing was in the UK, and it was an ITV production. It aired on ITV, and it showed 13 episodes from the 5th of September 1984 to the 17th of December 1984. This was in the London region where it first aired. It did air through the entire ITV network in different regions of the UK, but at a later date. And it's kind of interesting that there is a quite strong tie-in to some of the episodes to Old Hammer. For example, the episode we're talking about tonight, the first episode, was directed by Val Guest. And a number of other episodes were directed by Val Guest. Val Guest, probably a very significant director in Hammer history, because he directed Quatermass Experiment, the first, I would guess, Hammer horror movie, and the one that made Hammer a lot of money and gave him the money to sort of start negotiating rights for things like Dracula and Frankenstein and push into the American market. So Val Guest is significantly important that way. There's at least one other director in one of the episodes that I recognise from old Hammer films, which is Peter Sasdy. He directed the second episode. Now, the casts tend to be a mix of American and British actors. For example, on the American side, Dirk Benedict is the one we're talking about in this episode. But in later episodes, we've either got American actors or actors known in America that are British. For example, we've got Mary Crosby, Carol Lindley, but we've also got the likes of David McCallum. David Carradine was another one. Susan Hubley. So quite a mix of Dean Startwell in one of the later ones. That's kind of interesting. And Peter Graves, amazing. Now, I believe all of these are available on YouTube, so you can catch them if you wish to. The one we're talking about for this episode is Episode 1, called Mark of the Devil, first aired on the 5th of September 1984, written by Brian Clemens. Brian Clemens, also from Hammer, he wrote Captain Kronos Vampire Hunter, for example, but much better known for being quite a significant creative force within the old Avengers TV series, Steed and Emma Peel, that kind of stuff. Brian Clemens wrote quite a lot of those, and he's also known to us as in anthology circles because he wrote a series called Thriller, which I don't think I've covered yet. A UK series called Thriller, not Boris Karloff's Thriller, a different thing. Thriller, quite sinister series, quite quite interesting and actually scary, tense, I guess. Anyway, he wrote this episode, and as I say, directed by our guest. Now, the stars in this one that I've already mentioned, Dirk Benedict. Names that are known transatlantically, I guess it's probably the only other one will be Jenny Seagrove is in it. The actress Jenny Seagrove, British actress. There's also turning up is Burt Kwok, who is probably best known for being Kato in the Pink Panther movies, but he's been in a number of other films, British films too, but he's probably most remembered and recognised as Kato from the Pink Panther series. And he was very good in that. It has to be said. So, Mark of the Devil. This particular episode, we start with Dirk Benedict's character is kind of in love with this woman, Sarah, played by Jenny Seagrove. Frank is Dirk Benedict's character name. He appears to be in love with her, but he also appears to owe money to gangsters, £7,000, for example. And he's saying, well, I'm getting married to this rich family real soon, so I'll be able to pay you back and all of this. But they're not really believing it. So he needs to get into a poker game. He goes to try and sell his most expensive watch. But he isn't offered much by a Chinese man, Burt Kwok, playing that character. Pai Li is his name. Who offers him £250 for what is a £2,000 watch, and he acknowledges it's worth £2,000, but that's what he's offering, £250. But there's a kerfuffle. Dirk Benedict kills him and takes the money. But in it, the touch of the tattooist's needle touches the middle of his chest. And the plot develops, it's a bit of a Telltale Heart one, really. The plot develops with the small spot on his chest growing each day into a bigger and bigger complex tattoo. He goes to doctors about skin complaints. They can't really help him. In the meantime, the police are investigating this murder, and also the gangsters. He pays them off from the money he steals from this man. He pays them off, and he's kind of interested. They all know that he was in this poker game with this woman called Ma, older lady, who's obviously very good at poker. And basically the walls are closing in on him, and meanwhile his tattoo's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. He's trying to hide it at all times. He avoids any kind of physical contact with his fiancée. And he kind of uses the bad luck to see before the wedding, but also talks about having a headache and stuff like that. And she's kind of concerned. Her father is happy if she's happy, less happy when she's not happy. And this develops into, well, I will spoil the ending for this. So if you're interested, it's on YouTube. Go watch it before we come back to this. But it's kind of predictable, having said that. So spoilers from this one. He eventually is desperate, and he goes back to the tattooist lab. There, he's wandering around, and there's all sorts of weird charms and things hanging up. And Hai Li, Burt Kwok, appears in a mirror laughing at him, but jumps out and starts to attack him. And there's a scuffle, and he dies, basically. And that's kind of how it ends. Bad people end up badly. It's a morality tale, of course. So yeah, it was okay. I think it was done on film. It looks slightly better than some of the TV productions you see, but it wasn't great, but it was okay. It was passable. And it didn't feel over long even for that 70 minutes. He builds up quite nicely. Dirk Benedict's pretty good. As the tension's growing and growing and growing in him, trying to deal with whatever this weird curse is. And we've seen this kind of story before, haven't we, where people sort of have something. I mean, Telltale Heart is a classic, beating heart. In this case, it's a growing tattoo. It's that kind of premise. And it was okay. And as I say, there's 13 episodes of this, and the cast doesn't look too bad at all on some of the episodes. I'll give you a sample of some of the names, so you may or may not be interested because of that. So this was called Mark of the Devil, interesting name. Last Video and Testament, okay. Child's Play, interesting, not like the movie, I guess. In Possession, that sounds like a possession film story, doesn't it? Black Carrion. Checkmate, but spelt like from Czechoslovakia. Okay, that's a pun. That's not good. The Sweet Scent of Death. Wow. Yeah, okay. So, yes. I also... What did I say? It aired from the 5th of September to the 17th of December. I did say that from Anthologic. But actually, looking at the last few... There was 2 more shown during 1985. There was one shown on the 4th of July, first aired on the 4th of July 1985, and then on the 27th of June 1985. So actually, 4th of July was the last airing of this, but so those last 2 were randomly shown. I presume they weren't particularly good, or they didn't. The networks decided not to keep showing this, but they had a space to fill or something like that. That's what usually happens when these shows kind of fade out like this. They occasionally show some finer ones at odd times just to fill space. Usually, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night sort of thing. But I don't know the specific details. Yes, so this was Hammer Film Productions still trying to do stuff, which is kind of interesting because their last film before they kind of become revived more recently in the last 15 years was, I think, 79. And that was a kind of thriller. That wasn't even a horror. The last horror film was, I think, 76. So yeah, they're still trying to do. Obviously, they had the Hammer House of Horror from 1980 as well. That was going on. So yeah, interesting stuff. I wouldn't particularly recommend this particularly strongly, but it was okay. Okay, I'm going to wind it up there. But before I go, may I ask, is anybody out there?
I'm not.
We now return control of your television set to you until next week at this same time, when the control voice will take you to